How to get better at mid-roll and climb yourself out of low elo in 5 minutes. First things first, you want to have a good pool. Now before you skip this tip, you're probably thinking, I've heard this tip a lot, but you likely haven't heard that your pool should be dependent on your playstyle. Meaning it's no good picking Veigar or Vladimir to be a part of your pool if your playstyle is to go in for eliminations in the early game or to go in for all-in trades in the early levels. These two champions are geared towards scaling and then getting your eliminations once you have a completed item. Instead, for an early game type playstyle, consider picking champions like Lux or Yone. These champions are more suited towards this type of playstyle where Lux is poke heavy in the early game and Yone can do a lot of damage for his combos at level 3. Moving on to the next tip, which is super important and always undervalued, you gotta know when to dodge pre-lobbies. Now for the purpose of this video, I'm going to give you one tip for your lane and your ally lanes. So in this scenario, we are Swain mid lane and they got the last pick and went Veigar mid lane. Here we get outmatched as Veigar's Q outranges our Q. On top of this, the Veigar is most likely looking to play safe and to scale. So this means we cannot create an advantage in our lane. So this means we have to go to our ally lanes. For our ally lanes, we have Lucian ADC versus Caitlyn ADC. Currently, you want to know which champions are strong in each lane too. And Caitlyn is super strong and outranges our ADC. So this was a bad matchup too. For our top lane matchup, we have Yorick versus Garen. Garen is a super safe choice and enemies love to play him super safe until he reaches his items. It is also super hard to punish a Garen, and so creating an advantage top lane is going to be super hard. So as you can see, in all 3 lanes it's going to be hard to create an advantage, and this means you should dodge this game, as the only way you can win this game is that you are relying that the enemy team does not know what they're doing and are playing super bad, which is never the case in low elo. Another great tip to getting better at mid-roll and climbing elo is knowing your champion's power spikes. There are 2 types of power spikes. These are level spikes and item spikes. Let us start with an example for level spikes. This can be explained with Yone. Once he hits level 3, he has a level power spike where he can combo with his abilities via Eing in to knock up Q, to auto W, and then continue autoing or Eing out. Now this would not be as powerful without hitting level 3 for access to all 3 abilities, aka the level spike. Now another level spike you should be aware of and probably do know is your level 6 where you get your ultimate. For item spikes, a great example of this would be Vladimir completing Riftmaker. Now obviously Vladimir has loads of options for his first item, but Riftmaker complements his healing on top of giving him health, which complements his passive. It also gives him true damage and extra ability haste. Now this is a lot of added benefits when in a fight. A great way to look at this is Vladimir could easily win the exact same fight had he had completed a Riftmaker instead of just a few small items like 2 Book of Tomes plus boots. For the final tip and the most important tip for this video to be a better mid laner and climb in low elo is you want to know when to be with your team for team fights or when to split push. This is one of the most important things in low elo late game and mid game. So as a mid laner, it can be your responsibility to split push a lane. To simplify this, we're going to list when you should split push and when you shouldn't. Starting off with when you should split push is when you have trust in another ally who can deal a lot of damage in the team fight. This is usually going to be your top laner or your ADC or your jungler. And the best way to have trust is check their KDA and how many items have they completed. The second is when your allies are grouped at least as a 3 under tower, as if the enemy team does dive, they will have to tank tower damage. Moving on, when not to split push is when you have the most gold on your team and no one on your team has a good KDA or close to the same amount of item as enemy carries. Here your team needs you for your damage. The second factor when not to split push and be with the team instead is in late game where most players are close to 4 items and at level 16. On top of this, if Elder Dragon or Baron objective is up and you do not have TP, you definitely want to be with your team and not be split pushing. Here, whichever team gets Baron or Elder can essentially win the game.